There's a gentleman that's going to sit up front. I know for a fact. What's going on? There. Yeah.
That was good. Learning, fun. It's on. Do you want me to try talking?
There's seats up front. We don't bite hard.
It's like church. Last there to sit up front.
Or you guys could take the seats and put them in the back, and that would be a new front row.
So we are streaming now. We're on. Just so you know.
Thanks.
Yep.
There are seats up here, you guys. He's like,
That's where all the door prizes are.
come on up, come on up. There's 4 seats up here.
Well, 5-year forecast, all that tweaking and whatever, it produced almost no changes.
It's the
So
only meeting we've ever
that's why
had that we
I'm not
need
even
more
doing
chairs
it. Just doing a quick snapshot on the
for
back.
feelings.
May will be the important one. Changes are kind of factored in. For budget purposes, it's turned in.
It's under. I didn't get to all of them.
I saw.
Huh?
Stay awake.
I am. I'm good. Crazy night. I'm joking. We're not ever gonna tell. Good stuff. There's a seat right up front here. There's 2 seats actually.
yeah, somebody just got up and walked out.
Should I take everyone's name down?
This side of the room. Voice.
Listen, I guess we'll start without her when she can join us when she gets here.
2 minutes still.
So going
I'm
forward.
sure it's probably hard to find a spot.
That's like, yeah, she's probably like, oh, wait.
What's that? Peter over here.
Right. 6 o'clock.
There's some extra chairs in the corner there if anybody needs.
Okay. Few more seconds. Welcome, everyone. We're going to call to order the Tuesday, November 15th, 2022 regular school board meeting for Huron City Schools. If you could call the roll.
Mrs. Hartley,
Here.
Mrs. Centers, Mr. Jones.
Here.
Dr. LaFay.
Here.
Mrs. Mast.
Here. If you could all stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, item number 2, we need an approval for the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Centers,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay. Mrs. Mast.
Yes. Item number 3, we need an approval for the minutes for our October 18th regular meeting. So moved.
Mrs. Centers,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay.
Yes.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Mast.
Yes. Moving on to item number 4 is our audience community participation. Is there anyone in the audience this evening that wishes to address the board at this time? All right. We will move on to item number 5, administrative reports.
So like we started last month, we have a building or department presentation. So tonight is the high school's turn. And when I said, Mr. Lamb, you're up, he knew immediately what he was going to present. So I'm going to turn it over to him to kick it off. Okay.
Oh.
This is our STEAM class.
Awesome.
Patty, go ahead to the radio.
I brought a lot of students with me tonight that have a lot to tell you about our competition. thought we were incapable, but we didn't tell them that. And so then we come back and it kicks off, and probably the first year, like figure out what do they all want to do. So they apply for different. That robot then moves levers that moves a robot down a conveyor belt, and our robot goes over, picks stuff up, and moves around the playing field all for points. We were like, what? So then they look at the challenge, they brainstorm, they problem solve every hours. And I know they think about it as 8 weeks, but in a day, all the disruptions, we figured out that it was 30 hours. Well, hours a week, and these guys did it in 30 hours. So new to the team, we only had a couple of people that have come back. But okay, so they apply for the positions. The positions are anything from being on a marketing team, and when you're on a marketing team, that means you are going to another. That is a big challenge because the marketing team also has to, besides doing a sales pitch, they also have to raise funds for the team. Sunstone and Humanetics for their support. Then we team, and when you're talking about designing a robot, you're talking about a lot of drawings on paper, on whiteboards, on chalk design. Then they start to produce arms and feet and things like that. But those things might or might not work. So that redesign happens for weeks. And they have to stay quick on their feet and be able to change quickly and know that in life enough that failure is okay. It gets us to the next. Have someone that coded the robot. So after the construction of the robot, then a student comes in and has to code on a computer, plug it into the robot, and then tell the robot what to do. So all this stuff is simultaneously happening in a classroom with 24 students. We also have a couple of time from scratch. He's here to talk to you tonight. I will give him a special design that he has do, and plus Mrs. also supporting us in that endeavor. Our website. We had a graphic designer that designed logos and T-shirts. So I'm not going to team up first. They're the one that sells the robot.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yep.
Everyone, my name is Grantham. I am from Epicbots. I am one of the project managers. I am here today with Malia, Max, Megan, Peter, and Bryn. We're all very excited to have this opportunity to speak with you all about our robot, Max, Maximum Quality Courier. We are a team of highly skilled engineers, designers, and builders. Our mission is to engineer the future of made-to-order robotics. Us top-of-the-line products made to order with maximum accuracy. Here's Megan, the task manager.
Hi, I'm Megan. As Grantham said, I am the task manager here at Epic Bots. I also did many other things as I helped Bryn with researching the Engineer Notebook. I also helped. I was a co-author on the promotional video. I also helped with our booth and many other things. I also contributed to many other things. Anyways, it took a great amount of time to develop a problem for this. The task at hand was a complicated one. We basically had to design a robot named Squeaky, and we had to we had to make him to have our robot control him to move him across a conveyor belt and like put things into their respective bins. All completed in a 3-minute cycle time. We had to create a solution for warehouses who have need for multi-purpose robots who can assemble and operate a transportation. The robot is designed to help fit your exact needs, and here we have Peter to explain all about that.
A robot has been brainstormed many different times, and we've even had to take it apart a few times to revise it. And like Ms. Ryan said, we had to take it apart, and we had to be quick on our feet to make sure that the robot could do everything that we needed it to. Especially hard because the task this year was a difficult one, because not only did our robot have to control that robot, and that's where our amazing designers and builders come here. And have a little bit know-how of the robot. And the way that our robot works is it is able to move arm to Squeaky and is able to, after it's moved this Squeaky's arm to his respective place, it is able to control.
So, hi, like Peter said, I'm Max. I'm an exchange student from Belgium, and I've been a part of this team for 3 months now. I'm very proud to be a part of it as a financial advisor. So, concerning the prices, a single robot is sold at the price of $4,000, and if you decide to buy 2 of them, you will save $500. Special offers may apply if you decide to purchase 3 or more. A 1-year warranty service on robots and a 3-year warranty on powertrains are also included in the price. A robot costs $3,060 prices come with labor and machinery as well as the electronic equipment for the robot. We managed to raise for that we spend on supplies and on t-shirts. The t-shirts cost $240, leaving us with $60 left over. And will let
There are plenty of people who love in upcoming events. Future outlets are very bright. This company is exceptional and will always have ever. Has the whole warranty. At Epic Bots, because our success on yours.
Mm-hmm.
Share their orders.
It goes with black beans and rice and all the veggies. Sure. I usually get the the bowl without the rice, and then either the sofritos or chicken, the spicy salsa, avocado or guacamole, and cheese.
Okay, so as you guys can see, two very completely different orders. We don't just make one thing and say, okay, here you guys go. We add stuff, so it's what you guys want. We believe your company definitely align with robot. I would also like to set up another.
Oh.
Next up is our, this is TJ, he's a coder.
So coming to this year, I was new to coding for our robot. Our past coder had graduated the previous year, so kind of on my own, had to learn from bottom up, and I felt like I did pretty well, big success. And F works to code for this robot. And it was just done through two. Ours, I had a little trouble with no like coach or anyone with previous knowledge. Not it. We had to place that on. We placed that on the other robot, and then I'm sure our build team can tell you how.
I had a lot of complications. This was our third try. We took the first two, and they worked, but the arm never finished and never worked. And about 2 weeks left. They went to a practice day. They really saw what it was going to be, and with the practice day, um, they realized our arm's not going. Came home and we had to think quick and what we had to do, and Michael and themselves to really sit down and think about what would work, and it worked. And then TJ had to finish up the code. TJ, Chris, and Michael all had to design it all. Had performance flaws when we got there. There's the levers, we couldn't push them. Our arm.
Actually able to make our own arm that you attach to Squeaky, which is the robot you. We're able to make an arm that you could easily pick up with our robot. Michael.
Yeah. One more thing is I'd like to hand it over to our drivers. They did a lot. Our drivers were able to operate with over hundreds of people looking at them, and they were also broadcasted on live TV, which was really cool. And they were able.
So when you get out onto the course, you
scoring was not based on who scored the points. There's, I want to say like 8 different rounds that each team would compete in, and the points you would score, say we would score 75 points, but like the first few rounds we scored like 5 or 10 points. But then when we started scoring points, it was based on our average. So our score really only went up 2 or 3 points per round that we competed in. And so we started off with 0 points on the bottom of the leaderboard. And there's other schools up the top with 115 points overall. And somehow we sat down during rounds and we thought and what scored points. And they went out and they scored the points, and we ended up in 5th place, and we made it to the semifinals, but we got beat out. But they thought about what scored the most points the quickest to see what we could do.
I have a question. Alex, are you gonna go on to BattleBots after this?
Can I say something?
So the next person
Oh, just don't turn it.
that's going to talk to you is our booth team, which is like the IF Center, and there's booths set up, and it's out. But what puts them on the hot spot, and by the way, it's a whole structure with all the info inside. Judges walking up to the booth all day, a total of 10. The last couple of days, I tried to trick them with questions, and they were pretty awesome. Everything else that goes on with this Epicot company is everybody's vested.
CEO of the booth team, and I've been in Epic Robotics exhibit team for the past 2 years, and kind of fun. It's fun to do. My name is Tommy, and this is my first year on the team, but I really enjoy being able to work more with my. I enjoy that. You see. Hi guys, my name's Nate.
So Tommy and I had like 3 choices to make. We had a promotional video, it was promotional documentary. We chose promotional because when we started this, to be honest, we did start it a little late, so we didn't really have time to like put together a whole documentary of what everyone was doing at every second. So it's basically just us promoting the robot and how everyone else felt about the robot. It's about like we had like Robot named Max is being instructed by our top tier building team. Our builders strive for determination and success. They are doing their best to make our robot is built with durability and efficiency. Now onto a builder to illustrate how Max works. Dear Sensor, on the build team here at Huron High School, our robot, the way it's going to work is we are using a arm that's going to be attached to this conveyor belt like thing that this motor is going to be twisting the gear, which is going to allow the conveyor belt to move up and down. Our arm is going to be attached to the conveyor belt, which will allow us to move up and down, and there's going to be a grabber at the end, which will allow us to grab different items in the playing field, and will also allow us to move squeaky. The base of our robots are here. As you can see, we're going to go with a double decker things, allowing for our robots to be smaller and move faster. We're going to have a front scoop allowing us to bulldoze whatever falls out into the ring stock area for allowing for more points. Our main objective is going to be knocking off the spool, first allowing for a quick and easy points, and assembling different parts onto multipliers.
Wow, thanks for that. So, you may be wondering why we're building this. Well, we have a challenge where we need Max to build another robot named Squeaky.
Max will control Squeaky with levers that will move it across a conveyor belt, collecting and dropping different parts into seals into their respective bins.
Megan, how in the world can we afford all these tools, supplies, and materials at third place Max?
Well, Tommy, that may be a good question for me to answer, but I'm going to go ahead and point you to the marketing team for that one.
We've raised $300 for products and t-shirts.
So you may be wondering how you can get more information about Max. You can go ahead and go to the Epic Box website.
Anyways, we hope you learned plenty about Max and how we, Epic Box, continues to engineer the future of made to order.
Epic Box is definitely something to follow.
Thank you, Epic Box, for engineering a great robot.
Epic Box is a great company and they did a great job getting my needs. They even went above and beyond for that. I love the Epic Bots and they're really easy to work with. Yeah. I'm Kyle Lehman. I'm the head of the website coding and this device.
Cameron, I'm the co-author of the website.
Yes. And this is our website. It works. It's made to act like a website that you just go and find when you're randomly clicking around web. We have multiple web pages which you can access through these buttons. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Back on our home page. about things with the market. Got some pictures of everyone working over in the down here. We have some little a picture. I'm not gonna click on it because I don't want to try my best to go back. But like if you and would you like to talk to us about the contents of the about?
Filing of information.
And there used to be a video on it was like a little animation of how the competition. However, it looks like the video we used got taken down. So the video that was just presented to you by the video still up, and if I were to click right here, it would start the video.
HTML, which prior I had never even.
Although this is my first year with Epic Bots, I had previously had HTML5 coding back. Helped us make this website and make it what it is. Last page just lists all the different jobs that we all had. So if you wanted to know, let's say what out of the 9 teams that competed in this competition, 5 of them made websites, and we have been fortunate enough to be chosen as. And we always had a strong web team because out of the 6 years that Epic Bots has been around, this is the second time we've won at the Steam class. So yeah. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Great job.
Good move to the slide. So.
Count is that on? Okay. Yeah, you did. You did.
So he was not understanding something or
Your question? So you're telling us this, everything was done during one period and no other? There was no after school? Or? I'm,
Prepared for presentation to be made in like at BG, but then they didn't have their volunteers there, so we weren't able to do the. I had to fit within was it had to be small enough that you could fit inside of a box that was 24 cubed inches, and then it also had to be less than 8 pounds, I think, or not less than 8 pounds. It was less than a certain amount, but ours was very small, so it fit within the weight limit very easily. And so each team was only allowed to have 2 custom parts, and we only used one. We ended up having an extra one just in case it broke, but it didn't, so we didn't go over by that. And then originally, this was prepared for the first or second variation of our bot. So the one that you saw was the final one, and this one was the one that Peter had been shown inside of the last presentation with the conveyor belt that was going to raise the arm. So we were going to have a claw attached to the arm, and then the motor controller was opened up, which would have been grabbing the parts. So that.
Well, not originally, we still do have another designer that's actually on our team. His name's Chris Title. He was unable, and he helped a lot with us what we did. And there's a lot of design specifications that we had to do. 3 miles per hour was one of them, and I'm sure that Michael can explain how the way that these different design specifications altered the way that we made our robot.
So our robot was able to go 2 miles an hour, and it only weighed 7.2 pounds, and the height was 24 inches. It was 10.5 inches wide and 8.5 inches in length. Few innovation risks and lessons that we learned through making it. The risks involved were if any of the gears of the original robot had broken, which would have been driving the chain would have stopped going up or down, and we wouldn't have been able to lift anything, which is part of why we changed the design for the robot. Another of the different risks was the servos, which if they had overloaded, we wouldn't have been able to grab anything, and if you couldn't grab anything, you couldn't pick anything up and move it, which is another reason we switched the robot design. And then, that's pretty much it.
Thank you for being here. Thank you all for taking time out of your evening and away from your families and just coming and sharing with us this incredible experience you had. Really, really, really exceptional work. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Can you leave that here so we can look at it?
Before you leave, can we get a picture? Maybe we can do it behind here.
You guys come back here behind
Yeah.
us. Just stand.
We'll stay seated.
Yeah.
Need the robot.
I know.
Yeah.
Where's the robot?
Where's Max?
Squeaky.
Oh yeah.
Can you
Grab
put the
him.
robot?
Yeah,
Grab him.
we need the robot.
Right up here.
The box.
Max.
Yeah.
You want to put it up here? You want to put it up here?
So do that.
Perfect. John Deere. Looks like a deer.
You guys wanna go down?
I'm gonna totally break it.
Don't break it.
Don't touch it.
Totally break
Put
it.
it in so they can get
The arm.
I am. See, we're not bad. Oh, no.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you guys.
You look proud of you. Oh, I gotta ask you.
Sure. Good job. Good job, Peter. Everybody.
See who's left from government.
Yep.
Maybe. Can you do it now, just in case? I don't want to make sure I don't block anybody in. Thanks. After I parked, I'm like, ooh. It was the best place.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Moving
That was
right
awesome.
along. We are still under item number 5. We're going to go to letter B. Dr. McDonald.
I did want to talk just a little bit. Last month you made mention that we had I would put like a little asterisk with all that stuff in the state because not only do presentation tonight, you heard a lot. You will hear a lot, but history. So not only do they need to come and know, but they need these other things. Ruler, the R is recognizing emotions in oneself and through the the E is expressing emotions differently depending on the kind. The term that's I'm not the acronym, but a lot. But our goal is that there's a lot of times that I don't know, but this was absolutely.
And what time Monday would it be appropriate for us to come if we could make it? Give or take. I have that on my schedule, actually. I was going to ask about that.
So, yes. So actually, I'm gonna steal a little Jody's thunder. We have from 7:30 to 7:50 is the doing breakfast. We're just doing coffee, water. They can come. We'll be all together in the cafeteria, and that is all staff. And the staff is in Title IX. The other half of the staff will be in wellness.
So, Julie, you mentioned something about doing SEL with staff and talking to staff, seeing how they want to feel when they come to work. So how, like, what are the steps, or what is the action if you have staff that is honest and says, I don't enjoy coming to work, or I don't feel appreciated, or I don't, what are the steps to kind of address that?
So what we would do, like, so let's say that.
Right.
So we would do that.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
We just came back from a Capitol conference down in Columbus for Ohio School Board Association. So that's the big statewide association for all school boards. So principals, superintendents, some teachers, school board members were down there, and a bunch of us were down there, and we went to different sessions so we could pick up different things. But Julie, I know you talked to the folks from Battelle for Kids, and one of the sessions that I went to that was really impactful yesterday is called, it focused on the science of hope. Which I was not familiar with. I'm familiar with some other theories, but I was not familiar with that. And I love, because what you were talking about was that it's the science of hope is three kind of things. It's goals, pathways, and agency. So that means you are able to set goals for yourself. It's kind of like being able to see a future. And you imagine a future that could potentially be better than today. So you set those goals. You can imagine the pathways to get there. So you can build multiple strategies for getting there. You can kind of anticipate that problems are going to come up. I might not get into the first college of my choice. So what else am I going to look at? And then the last one, the agency, that means you believe you have the power to make those decisions, to set those goals, to map your pathways, and you have ownership over how that's going to be decided. And one of the things they said is they were talking about it mostly in the framework of kids, but then they brought up, but it's our staff. I mean, simple things like greeting everybody with a smile in the morning. I'm happy to see you here. I welcome you. How do we treat each other when passing in the hall? Are we smiling? Are we making eye contact with one another? All of those things help feed that sense, and that is hopefulness. And it's contagious. And that was the good thing, is people can feel hopeless, but people can also feel hopeful, and the hopefulness is contagious. So I love hearing that. Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to Mr. DeMarco and the treasurer's report.
Thank you. I have a brief report this month since I did the 5-year forecast last month. I do have an update. I just printed it out. I'm not going to do a PowerPoint because it didn't change much since last month, and there's copies in the back. And if the board accepts it today, I will send it to ODE tomorrow morning, and I'll post it live on the website, so it will be available. From last month, the only change was our state revenue. The current EMIS data was applied to this year, and I thought we might lose some funding, but we actually gained a little bit. So Not enough to be anything significant, but it was still positive news. So as of today, and remember this is a forecast, so it's going to change. But we are on pace to do better than break even this year. If you look at line 601, or 6010, as of today, we're projecting about a $500,000 surplus for this year. Again, this does not include any facilities changes or anything like that. That hasn't been put into. That will be reflected in the May forecast. So that one should be more targeted and more accurate. And then going forward, next year doesn't look too bad either. So we're in a good spot. And on the back, I did do some graphics. Again, our numbers from last month haven't changed much. But again, most of our revenue is coming from local real estate taxes. Our basic expenses are salaries and wages, and updating those and looking forward, we're still sitting around 77% of our total spending goes to salaries and wages, which is appropriate. It's getting to the high end, but we're still within an appropriate range for salaries. And then all the other spendings are and if you look at the last chart, you'll see the red line represent expenditures. We've done well the last 18 months where our revenue has exceeded our expenditures. Going forward, though, you see the red line and then it's going to get sharp the farther we go. We're protected by our ESSER dollars right now, but we're working on reducing fixed costs and some other things. I'm going to save that for Dr. Tatman to talk about in his, but this is where we are right now. So if this is accepted, it'll go to OE, and I would like to do my next one in April. I'd like to be early to give us time. A lot of work between now and April. The other thing, now I'm going to turn my focus in my office. Now that Capital Conference and a lot of our heavy things are out of the way, I'm going to ask next month, hopefully, to reappropriate the budget, just as I filter in some new funds, and I'm still untangling some of the things. I just ran a negative budget report, and there's a lot of accounts that are running negative, and it's not because we're overspending. It's just because the accounts that are getting pulled from aren't matching what was encumbered. So on paper, it looks bad, but it's really not. I just need to sit down and go through 600 lines, and I've done that a couple times, but I just need to squash these things out. So I'm going to ask to reappropriate. And then going forward into the next calendar year, I'm going to start sending all the building principals their budget. They'll get it monthly. Send it. So they'll have real time. Because at the start of the school year, or the fiscal year, everyone's got full account balances. But as we go forward, some of them are getting very low. So they need to be aware of their spending. And I'll work with the individuals when it's appropriate. Other than that, I'll talk about my financials when we get to that section. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Dr. Tatman?
Right. So my presentation is going to focus on facility planning. So this has been a theme for Huron for a while, and so we're going to start talking about it tonight, and then hopefully moving into December we'll have some action. Ooh. Okay, so we should start at the beginning, right? Strategic plan. So actually, let me back up one. So just not cooperating, no. All right. Well, I would just say I'm going to present tonight. This is a presentation for the board. It's not technically a public forum. So if there are questions or feedback from those in the audience, you can always email me, or also on our website we have a community feedback link where it's a Google form that you can submit, and you'll definitely get a response to that feedback that's submitted. So now moving on, strategic plan. Huron's strategic plan was first developed in 2015, and it includes a pillar for operational goals, an operational goal, which encompasses facilities, classrooms, and facilities for operational success. So we'd just like to start with that. Only like Thanks, Paul. So, current state, obviously we have 4 campuses, 4 buildings, and each are in need of significant renovation or replacement. The OFCC, the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, out of ODE, in 2021, did an assessment of all our facilities. In that assessment, they look at the school site, the structure, mechanical features, the plant maintainability, building safety and security, educational adequacy, and environment for education. And based on those assessments, all 4 of our buildings rated out as borderline. Based on percentages, Shawnee and McCormick both ranked the lowest at 62%. Woodlands was 69%, and the high school was 64%. But Shawnee and McCormick were the 2. No, not yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. Shawnee scored satisfactory for school site and then poor for educational adequacy and borderline for all those other areas. And McCormick scored borderline for all the areas. So that averages out where they're both in that 62% for facility quality. All right. Next slide, please. That's okay. So to start with this slide, comprehensive facility planning. Number one, we need to note that our enrollment over the last 10 years has declined on an average of 2% annually. So our current enrollment, based on EMIS reporting, is 1,166 FTEs, or students, ADM. That compares to 1,534 back in the 2009-2010 school year. So that's a 23.9, we could say 24% decrease. So classroom and auxiliary spaces for 3 buildings can support the current and anticipated future enrollment for our district. By reducing from 4 facilities down to 3, we can reduce our fixed operating costs of those buildings. With Paul's help, we were able to calculate that McCormick has an annual fixed cost, so utilities, general maintenance, those types of costs, of just over $70,000, $70,782. And Shawnee was calculated annual cost nearly the same, $73,553. So with consolidation, it's recognized, as Paul kind of noted with his presentation, there is some one-time expenses, moving expenses, those types of things. And if we move from 4 facilities down to 3, we're still within that same school classroom environment that we have today. So we're not getting a benefit of a new design or 21st century instructional spaces, but we're maintaining what we have. Some of that 21st century retrofitting could happen. The Tiger Union at our high school is an example of that. With the retrofitting, that's a flexible learning space where kids can collaborate, have some project-based learning, some independent study time. So that would be an example of a retrofit for some of that new instructional design. Consolidation is a short-term solution that allows us time for the long-term comprehensive facility plan. With a long-term planning, that would be, what are our facilities going to look like for the next 30 to 50 years? How can we maximize efficiencies and educational benefits? And there will be engagement with internal and external stakeholders. So staff, parents, students, general community, because ultimately we're going to need resident support and voter confirmation for a significant either new construction or renovations of current facilities. So the short-term plan is let's consolidate, let's save on some of those fixed costs now while giving us the time then to do that work for that long-term planning. All right, Paul, next slide, please. So with the long-term planning in mind, stakeholder input will be sought. With this short-term planning, it's stakeholder input has been sought, but it's been targeted. So I've worked with the administrative team on their feedback for the feasibility of the options that are under consideration. We've worked with both union groups leaders for feedback, and we've heard that they appreciate the perspective of cost savings, fixed costs opposed to personnel costs. And then also the union did share some member survey information that they had obtained, and additional staff members were consulted based on their area of service. So that'd be maintenance, technology, and some in the performing arts. Staff have been provided regular updates by me through email, and some staff have given feedback or reached out with direct questions, and I've addressed those. We're working with the work with staff will really kick in once the plan is known, and we have to start carrying out the transition from 4 down to 3. Their input and will be necessary for the success of that. And then again, engagement of the parents and the community at large. That'll occur as we begin turning our attention from the short term out to that long term, that 30 to 50 year plan. Paul, next slide, please. So when considering long-term plan options, OFCC recommends a single campus facility based on our enrollment. So I would say that we would consider the single campus. We may also consider a dual campus, elementary lower grades and upper grades. But in those considerations, and whether it's going to be new construction or renovation, it's looking like both McCormick and Shawnee would be 2 buildings that are least likely to be included in those plans. So while long-term plan is not yet set, the high school and Woodlands have the greatest potential for renovation or addition if a new building is determined not to be the solution. So the desired outcome of the consolidation is to, again, lower those fixed costs while providing time for the long-term planning to be determined and implemented. Long-term plan, if we decided today what we were going to do, it would still be a multi-year process as far as pre-bond work with an architect, then going to the voters for support, and then carrying out that new construction or addition and renovation. So this short-term move from 4 down to 3 is going to help, again, with operational efficiencies on the short run to give us time for that long-term plan. So what we are considering is closing McCormick. So if we close McCormick, we'd reconfigure the district with pre-K through 3 at Shawnee, and then 4 through 8 at Woodlands, and 9 through 12 at the high school. The other one that we're considering is closing Shawnee Elementary, and that would push pre-K through 5 at Woodlands. We'd have 6 through 8 at McCormick, all within McCormick, not using the annex. And then high school would remain 9 through 12, and the board office would have to be nestled into that high school campus there as well. And so those are really the 2 options we're looking at. I know previous pitches included having junior high students on the high school campus. As we looked at that option, really the layout of the building, it's a big L. So you have the gym, cafeteria, offices, and then you go down the academic wing. It would be difficult to keep students, I don't want to say segregated, but keep them clustered by age appropriateness. Whereas Woodlands has different corridors and offshoots that could be more feasible, which is why if we were to close McCormick, it would be 4 through 8 at Woodlands for that purpose. So we kind of have the 4th grader hallway, the 4th grade hallway, 5th grade hallway, etc. And I guess that's it. Okay. So really, the significant factor we're looking at is implications for instruction and learning. So as we look at a couple of factors, ODE licensure. So the ODE is continually updating their licensures, but the newest is that there will be a primary, a pre-K through 5th grade, general subjects with reading specialization. Then they'll have middle school, which exists now, 4 through 9, with dual subjects, so language arts, reading, math, science, and social studies. And then there remains the secondary, which is 7 through 12. So as we look at these different options, which configuration of buildings with grade levels has the closest alignment to what ODE is recommending as far as licensure? And that's really driven by all the research of style of instruction, learning, and social emotional readiness of students at those various grade bands and readiness. The other is 3rd grade. Other requirements that the district have to have. An example would be third grade reading guarantee. So if a third grader is not able to meet that demonstration of third grade readiness, then technically they need to be retained for a year. Having grade levels split, having third grade and fourth grade split between two different buildings, while not impossible, because there are other districts that have that split, it could give an extra wrinkle or fold in that as far as having students remain with third grade literacy instruction while wanting to remain with their fourth grade peers for all the other academics and all the other social benefits of remaining with your age-appropriate class. 6th, 7th, and 8th graders can have a true middle school experience. We flirt with this now with the electives, and students have choice in what classes they'd like to take. But that could really be expanded by having 6th, 7th, 8th grade together. We can offer more electives or a greater variety of electives for enrichment, remediation, but also collaborative planning with the teachers across departments, both grade level and subject level, for that collaboration where helps students make connections to learning, helps them understand, a purpose or the behind of what's behind as far as, why are they learning this topic. And then the other one is the middle school, the McCormick's proximity to the high school and the public library. There's a lot of our students who access, a lot of our McCormick students who access the public library after school, whether it's just for a quiet place to work and study, or if it's a place to go have a little bit of social time before their evening activities at McCormick or the high school start. And so we would lose that proximity by closing McCormick and having the junior high or the 7th and 8th graders at Woodlands. And some additional considerations that we're looking at are what are uses for the buildings beyond instruction? So Shawnee has limited uses. That's because of the shared space, a gymatorium, where it's a cafeteria and a gym. And then the square footage of common spaces in classrooms are limited. McCormick hosts the district's performing arts theater and competitive gym for junior high athletics. Alternative venues would be needed to support the continuation of these activities. Off-campus sites like BGSU Firelands or Sports Force could be an option, but rental costs and student transportation to and from those venues have to be considered in that analysis. Availabilities of these venues also may not meet the demand of the district use of the facilities at McCormick. For example, McCormick's gym is used 4 to 5 times per week in the fall for volleyball and in the winter for basketball seasons, practices, and competitions. In the spring, track will use the gym when the weather and inclement weather outside. So those would all. So it's a busy place. It's used a lot. The theater and stage, it's used every spring for the school performance and during the school year for band and choir performances, whole staff meetings, and community events. I did talk with the district's performing arts staff and specifically about BG Firelands Performing Arts Center, and they said it's a very nice venue. It is a smaller stage and venue than what our McCormick theater is, and so that would put a limit on the number of students they could allow to participate in a performance and also the number of attendees that could participate. And then also that stage would not be large enough to hold the entire band or the entire choir for a performance. So they would have to figure out how to make that performances still work within that space. The other consideration is transportation. So by eliminating a building that the buses have to service, it will create savings in daily mileage. And that could be used to expand the pre-K grade services. So right now, in 7th and 8th grade, there's a 1 mile radius. So if you live within 1 mile of McCormick, you're not provided bus transportation. K through 6, they're offered bus transportation from 0 miles out. So you could live right next door to Woodlands, and we'll give you we'll pick you up with a bus if you want. So that could be expanded. We're looking at that option, and that it looks like it could happen, right? We haven't done the detailed work to say if that's possible or not. And then the other consideration is staffing assignments. So we have a veteran staff, and we must be mindful of succession planning. Obviously, with our lack of subs, that's like one indicator. And then when we did have some postings this summer, the pool of candidates wasn't very deep, right? So as we think about replacing people, we may not have opportunities for high, the pool for candidates might be limited. And so we'd want to have staffing where we can consider to ensure immediate needs, but also future needs addressed. And then looking at leadership assignments, I will consider the needs of the districts and the needs of the district and the strengths of the individual. So that'll all be considered. All right, Mr. DeMarco, please. So next steps, I have to finalize the analysis and then deliver a recommendation. My goal is to deliver it at the December regular meeting, that December 20th. And then with the recommendation approved, we will begin the work with staff on the details, logistics of the consolidation. So at this point, board members, if you have questions, I'm ready. And for those in the public, if you have questions, you can email me. And then again, that community feedback link that's there as well.
Unless I missed it, I didn't hear you say anything about parking evaluation. Is that factored in at all? Parking and pickup for staff and just the whole melee of drop off pickup.
No, I haven't looked at that yet, so that's good.
That's a good point.
It's a tight range between like four
Every day.
buildings, isn't it? The entire presentation is on the website too, with all the notes. So all those figures and numbers for anybody as long the link is live to
That's
give
correct, yeah.
feedback
So
and to email.
it's currently linked for the public to see on board docs, but we're also going to find a place probably on the superintendent's web page of the website to link it there, so you don't have to go digging through. But yeah, it'll be there.
James, you mentioned getting feedback from the union, a survey from the union. Can you share what the results of that were?
Yes. So they shared it at our labor management meeting, verbal share out. So they sent it to all their members. The general feedback was that the staff are feeling like McCormick is an old building, and there's a lot of maintenance repair needs that are known to be needed there. So they would be in favor of moving in a direction of closing McCormick. Now the asterisks on that, what I just said is there was 19 submissions. I don't know, but I don't know which staff members, like, were those 19 all from the high school, or were they, where were they from? And then also, as I look at that OFCC report, McCormick does have some significant needs, but Shawnee isn't, absolutely right. It has some needs too, as far as it comes to maintenance of the facility. So, yes.
I know you didn't mention it in this, but I know when we talked previously, I brought up the marketability of this facility, which to me is a huge positive. I think this, because obviously we will need to sell it or long-termly, whatever the possibilities are, or if there's no point moving if we still have the maintenance here. I would say this is a lot more desirable. I would think. I don't know if there's a realtor. I don't know if there's somebody that needs to be included in that verification or validate that, but it just seems to make sense that this building could either be retrofit for many other things or demolished and build some housing, as opposed to McCormick. For a lot of reasons, I would not support like demolishing McCormick. I guess
we can.
You can.
I didn't
Yeah.
think we could.
There's no red tape because it is a historic building.
Yeah.
It's possible, but I'm just kind of throwing. I know I appreciate what you and the facilities, I know Stacy and Stacy were involved in this. I know I appreciate it because it's time that we make this step and get to the point where we're saving eventually a good amount of money. And that's why I said I think a marketability piece would be nice to have in here to again support, because I understand, you know, the people that said, well, McCormick is old and all that, but I think if we look strategic, this place I would think is more desirable to people to market it.
Yeah, for a resale value, like we haven't done an appraisal or anything like that, but I would think for a resale value, as you said, there might be another educational entity or whatnot that wants to retrofit this campus, or there might be a land developer that would say, well, we're going to level it and then do something new with it. You know, I haven't pursued any of those options right now because I don't want to put energy in pursuing something that's not what we're going to do. But I would continue to remind myself that long-term plan is a single campus or two campuses that could be high school Woodlands. That's feasible. So ultimately, at some point, both Shawnee and McCormick are going to come offline as far as for educational uses. It's really just a question of which first, and which one makes the most sense for where Huron is today and where we anticipate heading in the future. So, yeah.
Another question I had is if we lost McCormick or, you know, close that one, would we lose the access to the soccer field there?
So if you close McCormick, I mean, you could still use the grounds around it, right? Let's say we sold the property, then yeah, we would then lose rights to it. So there may be interest from other governmental entities for some sort of partnership deal, but as I sit here today, that's all just sort of big ideas and nothing real tangible, right? But for time, that may be something that's more realistic, but yeah.
So with the recommendation being made at the December board meeting, what's the timeline then from there? What's the timeline? Is it next school year that one of those buildings will not be open and that consolidation will take place?
And my goal would be that in August we'd start with 3 school buildings instead of 4. The first grade teachers asked to meet, so Julie and I met with them, and it was a good conversation. And part of it helped me because they're like, look, we did this once before. We used to be at Woodlands, and we moved over here. I said, okay, yeah. So how was that experience, right? And they said, look, as soon as you know, you need to get us boxes. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They said, well, because right now we're cleaning up our Thanksgiving theme, or soon we will be cleaning up our Thanksgiving theme decorations in our classroom. And if we can put those in the box that it's going to go to the new location, then that's preferred over having to double pack, put it away now and then in May have to put it away. So that was something that I was like, okay, that's actually some good feedback, right? So, but yeah, it would be the logistics of the actual move. So moving material and, there'll be some staff that want to take all their stuff, like do it themselves because they want to, have ownership of that. There'll be others that say, I don't want to touch a thing. I want to focus on teaching and instruction and working with students. And so we will work with staff on whatever level of comfort they're at. We will work with them on that. And working with tech on, what tech are we going to move immediately and what tech are we going to take out of here or take out of the building, but save as like backup, right? Backup materials. So there's those logistics, and then master schedule. So the buildings will all have to redo their master schedules, and I know that's something they worked on this previous spring, and it took a lot of work. So that would be another that takes a lot of work. But the sooner we can get started on that, then the sooner everyone can feel confident and end the school year feeling like, okay, I know in August when I come back, like I'll be in this building and this is my classroom and I'll be ready to roll. So we don't want to drag this out into the summer months if we can avoid it.
I guess another question, I just thinking about classrooms and thinking about the possibility of the McCormick close and moving 7th and 8th grade to Woodlands. What's going to have to be done at Woodlands for, let's say, science classes. There's no lab classrooms at Woodlands. So, I guess looking at the cost to outfit a classroom with what's needed for 7th and 8th grade science, I guess we need to look at that too when we're thinking about moving just to a place that doesn't have any of that, or staying in a place that does have that. I don't know. There's things like that to think about.
Is there like a matrix or a grid, some type of decision matrix that we can see the different things, the variables that are being considered, and maybe the pros and cons of those two
I can
options?
create one. I don't have one tonight.
No, I'm saying like for maybe that could just be sent like in the interim or posted out there or something. You've done a ton of work in gathering data, in seeking stakeholder feedback. So just kind of general, it's sounding like staff generally have accepted, we're going to be moving to 3 buildings and just wanting some decision made so they know direction and can be preparing. So that is helpful to know and understand. Also to be aware of, what kind of stakeholder anxiety might be out there that, certainly you would be dealing with, but what can we do to support everybody in the process? I speaking for myself, I don't want to be doing anything that's going to add to any anxiety for any staff, for any student, for any family. So what can we do to help facilitate the process for everybody?
Will we we probably can't do it between now and December when our next board meeting is, but will there be any community forums to talk about this with community members, like in person? I mean, just
So I would say if there's an interest, then we will do it. This presentation is going to be posted, so community has access to that. If I get emails from community asking a lot of questions, then that would justify, okay, we need to have a forum, an opportunity for a community town hall type forum. If people look at the presentation and then they have their questions answered, or they're just there's not an interest because they've already said, look, they probably should have done this a couple years ago. Then I don't want to have an activity just to say
Right.
we did it, right?
Right.
So if there's an interest, we would do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we go ahead and target like just a potential time, just because this time of year gets to be kind of a crunch, and I think it's important that we stick to that December 20th date as a point where we make a decision. Because I think when you talk about anxiety, I think the biggest source of anxiety has been just the not knowing, and that we can solve at some point. We have all the data we're going to get, give or it's reasonably get, and we have to go, with it. But I do think if we could hear from, at least give the community a chance to be heard. There's something, I know with the PD day that we have next week, I don't know if that's an opportunity to get the 19 surveys aren't necessarily a representative sample of what our staff is thinking, but if we're going to have them as a captive audience for Monday, could we fit that in?
So on Friday, last Friday, I emailed this presentation to all staff so they could view it. We had 111 people that clicked the link. So I don't know if it's 10 people that clicked it 11 times or 111 different people. And I don't know if they read it entirely or just clicked the link and then closed it. So with the staff, there's obviously some interest. And in my email, I did say to staff on Monday at 3, when our day is over, I will be in the cafeteria at the high school to either go in more detail on whatever questions they have or answer questions. I guess that's what I just said.
Send a survey? Like, is there a way, and I don't want to step on toes of how that is, but would there be a way to get a survey or work with the unions to kind of put that? Because I would be very interested in that.
Yeah, so let me see how Monday afternoon, how much interest there is there, and then we can do a survey. Because, I believe there's, they did a nice survey, and they had the interest that they did, feedback-wise. So I think we already kind of know that answer, right?
Plus, you've got the forum, your Google Docs, your email on here, and I know for one, I certainly don't want to prolong this thing because obviously one of the key things and where they're going to need them a lot of time is the transportation. That's going to have to be completely reworked. So, where do we stop continuing to ask to do this, this, and this? Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, you told me when you originally sent it out, you got like feedback from one or two people, and then you got what 19. I mean,
I just want to caution us to not look at what feedback we get right now and take a lack of participation as a lack of interest. I think that we are all mindful of overcoming a culture where decisions have been made. There's a cursory ask for input from staff or from students, but the decision's already been made. And so that input doesn't really matter. And I think when you have that over and over and over again, you get used to checking out and you don't bother to tell people what your thoughts are because it doesn't matter. And I think that this entire team is deeply committed to listening and to is authentically wanting to engage with its stakeholders. And I think I'm not saying extend the process. I think a deadline for this, a decision needs to be made. We've been talking about it. I just don't want us to assume a lack of interest or lack of response means a lack of interest. I think we make really good decisions when we get a lot of robust feedback from a diverse group of stakeholders. So, just keep the things you're doing, keep doing it. You're going to put it on your page. We can talk to people that we all know and say, hey, have you seen this? Check it out, read through it. Here's the link for feedback. Please take the time to send an email and let us know what you think, for the staff, for the students, for the families, because we make better decisions when we have more perspectives weighing in.
I would say two things. Thank you for saying that, because I'm still new, right? I've been here since August, not very long, and there's a lot of people in Huron that have been here for their lifetime. So we need their perspective and their input. And also, I think in that short time I've been here, specifically with the dress code, I've demonstrated that, hey, we're going to listen to you. We're going to listen to staff, we're going to listen to parents, and get that input, make refinements, and students.
Yep.
And make refinement and make the best decision based on that information we have. So I think we demonstrated that. But you're right. Yeah, we definitely want people to not just give their feedback, but also feel that it's been heard and considered. And I want to balance that with this short-term decision that we have to make is one. The long-term, that what is our facilities going to look like for the next 30 to 50 years? 100%. We need people involved in that. So I don't want them to get burnt out early, right? And then they're too tired to do that other part. But we definitely, that's really, if I had to pick one or the other, it'd be that second part, that long term.
You could kind of look at the flip side though, that if they feel like this whole process has been started without them, they're not going to engage later.
True.
And I think there's something along the line resonated with me where someone said, I think it might have even been an interviewing candidate, that you can tell your stakeholders, like, unless you're looking them in the face, you can tell them 5 different ways virtually, and they'll say, I never got that paper, I never saw that email. And so there's still a feeling of that no matter how hard you try electronically. I'm wondering if we should set a date for a town hall and even do it by sign up or something. I don't know, and just put it out there, because I really feel strongly that our community shouldn't feel like this is a surprise in any way. Not for your lack of effort. Not for your lack of effort.
Right? And but the criticism is that we made too many efforts to hear voices and nobody showed up. That's uncomfortable with that criticism than the other way around, that there were a lot of people who had things to say, and we, especially like our older citizens. I will tell you, like my parents, for example, are probably not going to. If you ask my dad what PowerPoint is, he'd be like, not familiar, right? And so it's just not always best pointing so well taken that hitting our community and meeting our communities where they are and where they can best engage is I think a commitment, especially with these big decisions as we go to like rebuild trust and really start to lay out the case of exactly what you're saying, James, which is, listen, there's a short-term plan where we're committed to being as efficient as possible with the things within our control right now, right? So we have these buildings, we have these different pieces. how do we, without asking anything of the taxpayers, how do we make the progress we can with what we have? But the next step, and that next step's unavoidable, is going to be like we're going to need the community's support for the big stuff that comes next. And building that foundation of like communication and trust, I think is critical right out of the gate.
What about if we considered having, if it means starting earlier in December? Since we have to do the organizational meeting before the January 15th. That's a short period of time, so perhaps if we make the December 20th meeting the forum, like I said, if we wanted to do it at 5, and then act on the proposal in January, which would only be a couple weeks later.
I think trying to do something with the community at 5 o'clock is not going to be.
Well, but then we could do it afterward. I'm just making the suggestion that.
I'm just thinking time-wise, I don't think that's, when you think about work schedules and people getting here, I don't know that that's like the best time, but I think I understand what you're saying, and I guess, is that too close? I think it's a little too close, maybe, and then making a decision that evening on information.
We wouldn't. That's why I said we could do it in January. It's only 2 or 3 weeks later, so we're not. I don't think harming James. I mean, it's a couple of weeks later than. I'm just trying to get the community thing taken care of. I don't want to set up another date, especially in December, because now you're between Thanksgiving. I mean, we have a rough enough time making dates.
Yeah, and I don't think we would have to. I wouldn't envision it. I would envision. So there were a number of presentations down in Columbus this week of districts that had gone through either renovation or new buildings, and they talked through the process. And a lot of them just had an open, like the school was just open for people to come in and walk it and see. And then there were a couple administrators or staff members there that could kind of talk about like, what does an optimal learning space look like? What does this look like?
Right.
You know, square footage, those things. I mean, you know, I don't know that it would become, I don't think that it's a board role. I mean, if some of us chose to be there and to be there on hand to talk to people and to hear, but just to have
I guess
2 meetings or something.
I agree with you. It's not a board meeting work session. It would be like a town hall where I'm the facilitator and people come and they share ideas and get ideas and stuff like that. And then the other part, it was already talked about like staff anxiety. I would love to be able to send a Christmas present to all of our staff of here's where we're heading. Go relax, enjoy your break, because when we get back, we got some stuff.
I see that too.
And I think those couple weeks, you're so right that like on our, but I think for that mindset of starting afresh in 2023 with a direction is a great thing. I just wonder, like, and Stacey and I'm going to commit you, the two of us, to the extent we've been on the facilities committee, even if it's just us or whoever wants it, it's just a listening session. We're not there to talk, just to hear. Maybe the first week of December would be good, and then that gives us plenty of time to get that information. You know, certainly like bullet point it for the board. These are the things we've heard, and then we're ready to talk about it and hear a recommendation on the 20th and commit to having an answer for the community and particularly for our teachers.
Change people's Christmas wishes.
Yeah, I'm open to that. I mean, I'm totally open to that.
If nobody comes, fine.
We tried.
Then we,
yeah.
then we
I think it's important to try. Unfortunately, some more time spent away. I know it's no problem, but
But James, to your point, I mean, I think the timing of what we're doing now, which is putting this out there and giving like a full 30 days for everybody to like take it in, have it, like this is the pace we want to be in. We don't want to be rushing a decision. Yeah, we're on a time crunch, but like we've been on a time crunch, and another 30 days to allow the community and all the stakeholders to socialize this, think about it, give feedback in all these various formats that work for them, and then we will hear them and make a decision. That's the rhythm we're trying to get into, and I appreciate you, like, you know, working with us and giving us the time and the patience, and Cindy, Julie, to do this, because I know it's
a lot.
December 20th is down to the wire.
It's coming, but no, it's good. I think we're on a good
great
path. I think we're on a good timeline too.
So could I just ask one thing, and maybe you're already thinking this with the whole matrix thing? Could the matrix involve a if this building closes, then this happens. So we know staff wise, and if this building closes, then this happens. Just so we get an idea of how we're thinking, how staff wise we're thinking who's gonna be where, who's gonna be moved where, just so we can see what that looks like.
Well, are we going like into detail that we talked about? That's a massive undertaking, right?
No, but
like,
just
Conceptually.
yeah.
conceptually.
Perfect.
No, I
like
don't.
high level.
Briefly,
Yeah,
yeah.
not
Don't do the whole master
conceptually.
schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, no, just conceptually. Just an if then thing.
Yeah. No, that's
Just
perfect.
a real high view from.
Right. So, for example, the specials teachers start their day at Woodlands and then they travel over to Shaw. Right? Yeah. Start their day at Woodlands, then they travel over to Shawnee. Right? So, if we still have those two buildings open, do we think that that's how that structure would still be? Right? Or if Shawnee were to close, does that mean those teachers are now at Woodlands the entire day? Right? So, I think that's what you're looking for. Yeah. Okay.
And I guess I'm looking too at, custodial staff, administrative staff. There's going to be crossover on some of these things, and if this, then this is the model. If that, then this is the model. I know you understand what I'm saying. I'm just so great.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
great.
got some homework.
Great job,
Great.
though. Like this is really thorough and thought that out.
Let's try. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Showed. Can I go to the bathroom? Is it open downstairs? Does anybody know?
It is
Are the
open.
doors open? Oh.
It is.
It is.
Should we play a musical interlude?
Nope. I'd prefer to keep moving on if we can. Paul, go ahead with your treasure recommendations.
I didn't print out a general fund report for this month just because of the 5-year forecast. It seemed a little redundant, but it's in there. Again, our general fund reports from last year aren't exactly apples to apples comparisons. That will happen across the calendar year. Going down the investment portfolio, we made over $20,000 off our securities. Interest rates, Star Ohio, we're still getting really good rates, even though the amount of cash we have on hand shrinks. We're still maintaining, as rates keep going up, we're maintaining some good income off our securities. As we get into B, donations, Woodland staff donated for the butterfly garden. Savista Bank donated to the cross-country team, and Humonics donated to the STEAM. So total for the month was $386. And I changed the way we're reporting. Fiscal year to date donations are $16,233.50. Before they were doing calendar year, but fiscal year makes more sense. Item C is a little bit different. Our DAW made a donation to the athletic boosters for a new scoreboard for the baseball field. We received that money this month, but it's on this agenda just for approval, and then we'll record it in next month's donations. So I'm asking for just approval of that. And
What's the amount on that?
$20,400.
That's worth. Yeah, thank you.
So we'll take it.
Yes, for sure.
Under item D, we had 2 budget and purpose statements come in this month for high school wrestling and the vocal music program. Item E, again, apologies, but we have another then and now that needs approval. A fundraiser was done and there wasn't a purchase order in place, so I need board approval to pay that amount. Item F is the 5-year forecast, and if it's approved, I'll get it sent down to the state tomorrow morning. And then item G, Dr. McDonald and Holly Charville applied for a grant from the Adams Board that we received. So I need board permission to set up an account code for that. And then we also have another grant for the Ohio State the space grant. So I need approval to set up that account. And
We need a motion for the treasurer's recommendations.
So
Second.
We're getting there.
Yeah, it's a good second.
Then they ask for any questions
Oh,
or
I'm
discussion.
sorry. Well, okay. Wow.
Getting sassy after watching that meeting yesterday.
I didn't know I had to wait. That's the only reason I was. And maybe I'm not in the right pew. I'm looking at the student activities advisor handbook. Am I in the wrong
yeah, that's just for reference.
section? Okay.
The procedure when we do fundraisers should have been a form filled out. There should have been a purchase order put in place. That's why I need board permission, because those things weren't done.
I mean, and I don't know if this is a big deal.
Well,
It's
I
old
reviewed
dates.
it, and we basically the only change Dr. Tatman and myself made was we pulled the old administrators' names off. And committee wants to look at this and go through it, and the 200 and the 300 funds, the student activities and the athletics. There is a procedure guide for these things. Should be followed. So the idea is you don't want individuals just out there doing fundraisers without their principal or the athletic director or anybody knowing about it. You never spend money without having a purchase order in place. So
My only question was the approval date is before you two were here. Right. So I didn't know if it has to. If that mattered. That's all I was. If it's a policy thing, I understand. That was my only question. Maybe critical just.
right, if we want to put this, I mean, we're not making any changes to the actual policy.
It's a procedural thing, and I'm gonna give this to Paul on a procedural issue. I don't know the answer to that.
If we want to relook at the handbook, I mean, that's something that the policy committee can do.
Okay.
As far as we haven't made any changes to any policy procedures, we're just continuing with what, and most of our procedures, it's because it's state law.
Okay.
Ohio Revised Code, so
Okay.
this is the procedures aren't unique to our district. It's the law.
Any other questions or discussion regarding the treasurer's recommendations? Okay, go ahead.
Mrs. Henners.
Yes.
Mrs. Hartley.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Dr. LaFay. Mrs. Mast.
Yes, thank you. Now on to superintendent recommendations.
All right, number 8, item A is the second reading of board policy revisions, and so they're listed there. And then letter B is the reappointment of the trustee for the library, the Huron Library. And then letter C is the appointment of James Brown for the Huron Joint Rec District Board representative, or representing the school district. So we would have 3 then: Dr. LaFay, James Brown, and Julie Spitzy. Thank you. Letter D is the Child Internet Protection Act of 2000 compliance. So as part of the E-rate, Vincent, our tech service provider, said, you already have this in place. It's already been happening. You just need it in board minutes that we are compliant with this Child Internet Protection Act of 2000. So that's the purpose of that statement. Letter E is certified personnel. So Nathan Niedermeyer is going to be end of course exam tutor and also on the list as a home instructor as needed when the service arrive is needed. Then we have Ann Asher. She's a retired principal and educator. She is going to be approved to serve as a substitute administrator. So building level coverage. We have 3 buildings that have 1 principal in them. And so if they were to be out for, say, a 5-day period, it'd be nice to be able to have someone in there helping just run the day-to-day operation of the building. She's also on our teacher sub list as well, but that's the list. For classified personnel, we have Diane Chevalier, thank you. She's a food service worker at Woodlands, and so she'll be retiring at the end of December. So in January, she will be enjoying retirement life. And then we have Jennifer Johnson continuing as the food service lead. She's been doing really well with that. She's cleaned up some different things from making sure our menus are compliant with the federal lunch guidelines and making sure that closing out the audit from last year that had a couple of last details that had to be done. So that's good for her. She's been awesome with that. And then we have 2 new classified subs on the list there. So. And then supplemental list. So we have some of our winter sports coming on now. So Matt Bauer is going to be girls 7th grade basketball and Biddy basketball. Thomas Dejas for swimming. Scott Demos for boys basketball at the 8th grade. We have Randy, and then down below Don Hardy for announcers. Those are volunteer positions. And then let's see, boys tennis, wrestling, bowling, band, and then resident educator.
Right. Need a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions regarding the superintendent recommendations? Alrighty.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Henners,
Yes.
Dr. LeFay, Mrs. Mack.
Yes. All right. We are going to move on to board discussion. Number 10, and I'm assuming A will be Dr. McDonald?
Yeah, so
Okay.
is the track.
Yes, so keeping with our timeline, I guess it's been 2 weeks ago now that
Version address the drainage problem at all? Excellent. Oh.
They're looking at that option as far as larger floors. It's still closed.
the option
All right, we are on to the high school bathroom bids, and I have them here. They're sealed, and Paul, I just need to open these.
Yes. And then
And how are we going to do this?
the name of the contractor.
Okay.
And
And
the
I've
amount.
never done this before, so this is
I
exciting.
probably could have pre-sliced it. So. But they are definitely sealed.
Okay. So the first one is from Telemon. And do I just need to give the price, or what is the procedure here?
Just the dollar amount of the quote.
Looks like the lump sum price from Telemon is $52,629. The scope of the work. Do I need to read the scope of the work or anything like that? Do you want me to pass them down? Okay. All right. The next one is from Johnson Locks Construction in Ohio. Their total cost is $64,302. Wait a minute. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's the total light. What is their total cost? Here it is. Their bid is $86,331.
That's why bidding is good.
It seats.
The days for everybody.
Two ply.
Okay.
Okay.
There you are. So then what is the procedure we need to do now?
I'm gonna have a discussion about the two. I mean, we only had two. I didn't have a favorite of the two companies. Johnson was the first one. They were part of the original cooperative purchasing. We didn't go that route. And then the other company, I've had a lot of discussions with them. They came and looked at the facilities. So they're both general contractors. They're both relatively local. The quality, I'm sure, is
Same exact job.
yeah. We provided the scope of work to them.
Okay. You need to validate that what's in there matches what you put out.
I will, yeah, but yeah, I worked with both of these quite a bit through the process. So
Did you say, Paul, that one of them or both of them were requiring us to have an architect for this project?
not for this one.
Not for this
Well,
one?
because remember we picked up this project that was already under discussion under the previous director of operations, and if we weren't going to do the same type of fittings like the urinals that, like if we went to a different, they would have to go into the wall
Okay.
and change plumbing.
Okay.
And we don't want to expand the scope of this project
Okay.
to something like that because we have other bathroom projects and
Right. So that's not needed.
we don't want to turn a $50,000 project into a $250,000 project. So the purpose of this is to expand so we're more compliant and to modernize the fixtures and replace the empty ones that are missing.
Did we have an original budget for what we were budgeting for this project, or no?
The original was for 4.
I mean, like a dollar amount budget. Did we have a dollar amount budget we were hoping this was going to come in at, or was there anything projected that we were looking?
I just knew it was, well, we did have, the original quotes we got were for 4 though. So we had, yes, kind of a number, and it was going to be bigger than 50,000, so that's why. And we chose not to go with cooperative purchasing.
Right.
Our legal said, don't do that, stay away, and I'm glad because bidding is always better. It's more fair.
So then you need from us just an approval of one of those companies?
Right, probably next month I will come with the contract.
Okay. So we don't have to, there's no action that we need to take this evening? on those bids. Okay.
One more question. Paul, you feel like either vendor is capable of?
Right. So we vet them, you know, as far as like the legal stuff, like if they
Right.
have any outstanding issues. But yeah, they're not small companies, like they're general contractors. So we had some smaller like, individuals come in and they didn't get a bid packet. So
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Now,
Sorry, Jody.
oh, go ahead.
Paul, with 10A, the track, is there action needed for that?
because it's under the $50,000 threshold.
Right.
So that was the other issue that we were having throughout this month, because this is because they did a project that was approved in June, and it's the same vendor doing the same project, so you have to combine the two totals. But it falls under the $50,000 threshold, so James can sign this as a purchasing agent without board approval.
Perfect. Thanks for asking.
So that's the track. But
No, with other money. Was it parking lot? Servicing or something? What was it?
We had to pay them for the first part, the soil sample, the survey.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
You're
that's a
talking about the
different-
resurfacing. Yeah.
I'm just trying to talk about that.
that one was supposed to be under 50, and it ended up being because it was combined projects that went over 50.
Okay. Item number C is the evaluation goal setting for the superintendent and treasurer. Those went out to everybody this morning. I know we've had a busy 2.5 days, and I would not be surprised if people have not had a chance to really dive into those and look at those. This might be something that we need to table for December, just knowing that they are out there, and I don't know how we want to handle that.
Tabling is fine with me. I would just say that I've read them. I provided the board with goals that I thought would be my goals, and now the board is responding with goals, and they're pretty much in alignment, right? So, as it was drafted, I appreciate you guys taking my input and working to give me goals to work on. So I've read them, but I don't want to say move forward because everyone might not have. But yeah, I think it's good we're taking the time to get this process done. And like, this is how we're going to do it, right? So like in May, we're not like,
Right.
we don't like how this works, right?
Right.
And then next year we'll be on a better
Right.
timeline.
Right.
So
right.
it's good.
And I just would like to take this opportunity to recognize and thank Stacy Henners for her amount of time and input in helping do this. I obviously could not have done this alone, and I really appreciate her input, editing skills, and everything that she did to make this happen. So thank you very much.
Yeah, just like real high level, as you guys dig into this, James had initially submitted to us last month or 2 months ago, kind of a standard format. We've modified it, or the draft I put in front of you is modifying it a little bit. So in a couple ways, used to be that there's two parts. One is the specific goals for this year, or this measurement period, which is going to be closer to 6 months, 7 months. And then there's kind of competencies or leadership standards is what aligns with like ODE's jargon. They had it like 80% on the year specific goals, 20% on the competencies, which are basically like the skills you're demonstrating daily to show that you can do the job that you're in. I recommend that weight is more evenly distributed, 50-50, because sometimes specific projects or goals can be like achieved, but they're not necessarily demonstrating competencies. And as a board, we want to see both out of our key leaders, in my opinion. So that's one. On the leadership standards, those come from the state of Ohio. The list was long, and so we worked, and sometimes redundant or like wordier than it needed to be. So we worked on really like just paring it down to the things that were relevant to our board and like our vision for James and Paul's roles. We don't see those competencies shifting significantly year to year. We do see the goals. Like that's something we really revisit year to year, because that's kind of the feeling. Format wise, we would do a mid-year check-in, or I guess a period check-in, I would think we would want to schedule that for like around March or April this time around, with the end of July being the end of the measurement period. So it gives us a midpoint to check in with James and Paul, see how things are going, tell them, you know, they can check in with us and say how we're doing and giving feedback, but really so that there's no surprises as we like march to the end of the measurement period as to where we stand with each other, or if there is need for some kind of amendment or additional resources that we formally put that conversation and created a record of it. So that's it. That's just kind of the couple changes we made.
Right. Other questions, comments regarding the evaluation? Yeah, you're welcome. All right, we'll move on then to item number D, which is to discuss any new business to come before the board this evening.
Well, I would like to share that the last session I went to today was a session where 3 different school districts presented, and they were talking about having student representation to their Board of Education. And so these schools, it varies in the number of student reps they have. One had 5, another had 1, another had 2. They vary in how they select those students. It was fascinating. The students led the presentation most of the time. The one school district that's the most robust, they've had student reps on their board since the 1990s. Those students are currently involved in lobbying for supporting some state legislation, because the state Board of Education is looking at potentially adding student reps on there. So they're helping to advocate for that. They think it's a great thing. The stuff that they've been able to do with their board members, their superintendents were there. It was really incredible. So I just wanted to share that, but I would love for us to consider it. I think I've heard iterations of this from different board members. And again, back echoing to the more perspectives we can get, the better decisions we can make. So would love to see if maybe we could consider that.
And I know, James, you and I had a conversation regarding that same thing.
I think multiple of you all have had conversation. Yeah. So there's definitely interest on the boards then. And
So
I would
it's
anticipate
it's on the radar. Yeah.
You're like, this is the longest, most boring.
Are you still awake?
By the way, it's not the board was boring we've had.
I just wanted to add what Stacy talked about. That we were talking together around information, but whatever you call that entrance, and we happened to talk to the policy person. I'm having trouble remember all their titles, and she is sending Stacy and I, because there is a policy for it, the current policy that we can actually review and propose. I mean, whether it's something we want to do right away or not, I would like to, as kind of as soon as possible. But we could take that policy and then gear it towards us, because we said, well, send it to both of us, and then we will pass it on. And
they shared, did the students attend every meeting, like all 12 months, or just the school year, or?
Yes, so the students come to every meeting, and some of the school districts have board meetings twice a month. They do a working session and a board. And then the students also get together on their own. So of course they're non-voting members. The one with 5, they sit in the audience, but they're in the front row. When there's discussion on an item, the students can participate in the discussion of it. That group actually created a QR code that they take to all of the schools. So students, anybody has the ability to give input. It was really cool. Mm-hmm.
I attended the same type of thing. Toledo City is doing this with great success and basing a lot of their decisions on the students' input. They talk with them, and then the students actually go back to the high schools. I don't know how many Toledo has. I don't know, 5 or 6 high schools. And then they come back and kind of report to the board, and then they take that feedback. And
I have ambassadors to their
I really like
classes,
the idea.
Yeah.
I like the concept. Cool. So thanks, Stacy.
Sure. All right, any further discussion on student representatives?
Carly, is your hand up? You want the job? No. Okay, good. Couldn't tell.
Let's move on then to, board
Can I
committee.
just, sorry, well, other new business?
Yes.
John mentioned it. So the work session in January has to be before the 15th. I know at our board retreat in July now, I threw out the idea of, do we want to look at changing the day of the month, the day of the week that we meet? Tuesday seems to have a lot of sporting events and performances and other school activities. That do we want to think about moving to Monday? And the reason I ask is, in December when we come in, we'll have to pick that date for the organizational meeting, and I'd like you guys to have the time to look at your calendars to say, does Monday work for us, or is it better to stay with Tuesday? So just
Great.
throwing it out now, so in December we can lock it in.
Perfect. Thanks for bringing that back up again. All right, moving on to number 11, board committee reports. Let's start with Dr. Lefay.
So went to the Parks and Rec meeting, and they're just kind of taking the next step with the tennis court project, which involves a city county meeting. Their big thing coming up next is the Winter Fest, which is Saturday, December 3rd, 1 to 6 p.m. There's a parade, there's fireworks. It's a really fun family day, just helping to promote that. And they did make a point during the meeting to really comment. They have a new, I don't know what her formal title is, Jennifer, director? Yeah.
Executive director of chamber, I think.
And she was just really reiterating how the collaboration with the schools has been such a help, and she's really finding that valuable. So, yeah.
Finance, we've nothing to share on facilities that hasn't been shared. Finance committee looking at some suggestions by parents and also a 9th grade student about looking at affordability for students to get into sporting events and other activities. So maybe whether that's like a pass or something like that. We're also talking about trying to increase our participation in the National School Lunch Program and get folks to apply for that, since the guidelines for that are different from any other types of programming. So sometimes folks think if they don't qualify for SNAP or other types of county assistance that they wouldn't qualify for lunch assistance when they would, because it's a much higher threshold for that. And then that might be able to be tied into fee waivers, which would include things like an athletic pass or pay to play and those types of things. So Finance committee just has all those things in, and Mr. DeMarco has been really great in trying to pull together a lot of information to understand what the financial impact might be if we were to look to do something like that. But the goal would be to make things more accessible and affordable for students and their families.
We didn't have an actual meeting this month because of Capital Conference, but we could still try to pull something together before the end. Even if it's phone calls and emails, we can redirect towards these things.
Right. I had the privilege of sitting down with Dr. McDonald, and we got to work through Tiger grants. Am I allowed to say anything, or that we picked people? I'm not going to say who. Or okay. We did end up awarding about 5,000, 5,600 in Tiger grants, and we also were able to secure an anonymous donation through Huron Educational Foundation to supplement one of the Tiger grants for an exciting opportunity for some elementary students. So that'll be announced on the 21st. And then little enticement if you'd like to come and hear about Tiger grants. But I always enjoy that. This is the second year I've gotten to participate in that, and it's really cool to see our teachers think outside of the box and get things for their classrooms to really engage their students. It's neat. It's fun to spend other people's money too. Boosters meets tomorrow night, so I don't have anything to report for Boosters. So that's it.
I have nothing. Facilities, obviously, we've got a lot to say that has, and then policy, we didn't have anything new this month.
Mr. Jones?
Safety and security, I think I did a report last time after the meeting. We have a meeting Friday morning. I don't know if we're gonna hear about the grant. Yeah, I'm not trying to put it, okay. I'm just excited to keep moving forward with things that we really need to consider. Then Ehovie, two things. They are moving forward, or Dr. Tappan, you can probably help me. Can't remember the name of the company that came in, presented to us about construction. The timing is really great because they're planning on doing some major construction at Ehovie. Similar, yeah.
Oh, that was one
Yeah,
of
the
the
guy
firms.
we met yesterday.
Saeed? Is
Yes,
it Saeed?
Saeed.
Oh, ABG?
Yeah. Just interesting timing, and I'm looking forward to being involved with it. I'm also going to check. I don't know if December would be a good time, and I think their meetings are open to the public. But I think I would like to urge all of you to try to come to your Hobie board meeting at some point, and maybe again I can look at the agenda or talk to Chris and say, is this a good one, or if you're feeding everybody in December, that would be a good one. Pardon me?
Do I remember correctly that they're doing the
10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I know. It might not be good for everybody, but I figure if you know ahead of time, maybe you could come because they're pretty interesting, and it's. I'm sure we could even set up some tours or something because if you haven't been out there, you need to go see it. So I'm looking for the construction. OSB legislative, I can just tell you, there was nothing I found out going with student liaison, by the way. The legislative part, I did speak to, I'll say Jennifer Hogue. I'm having trouble with names tonight. Will is gone. Will Schwartz, who was my main contact, has left. I did get to talk to him. He was there, but we are going to talk through the month to see how involved, because I know you all get this litany of House bills, and I know several of you are kind of on top of it, but I asked, how do we know what we should give you feedback on or get involved with and how to do it? So she says, well, let's just talk more often. I said, I'm all for that, so I'm going to do that. And if you want to hear about the delegate thing, we can speak. It's about 10 o'clock.
Nope, it's good. We're good.
We're good. We're good.
It was very interesting. Anyway, that's all. Sorry.
Okay. All right. I don't believe there is a reason for executive session this evening. Our next meeting will be on December 20th, 6 p.m. here. And I need a motion for adjournment, please.
So moved.
Mrs. Hartley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sinners?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. LeFay?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes. Thank you.
And I was going to say, I don't mean to be blunt, but why are these kids here? I love it. Oh, so this is an assignment.
We've already started the student meeting.
Oh. If we would have known, we would have brought snacks.
Do you guys need signatures? Bring them
We,
on up.
I'm going to speak for everybody. It's nice that you're here. We appreciate it.
So was it what you expected or totally different?
So boring.
And William, always appreciate you. I know it's an assignment.
Like Walking Dead.
Would you need us to sign it? Oh,
Absolutely.
Carly, you don't want me to sign it? Oh, I've got it.
You need something else?
You should
know that they were really
Thank you.
bad.
What's your name? Oh, Reese. Okay.
No, no, no.
Hello.
Yeah, there you go. Of course.
And I usually talk to Matt after I look at your agenda.
Can you photocopy it for all your friends?
Most of the
Just
time.
took a lot of notes.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you.
When I walked in, I thought you were all on the robotics team. It was big regardless.
No, I mean the agenda, so I know what's going on.
I know. Like, speak of the devil. Yeah.
We got shopping for him today. Do these go back to Julie?
Oh, I want to. It's just,
Take these, give these to Julie.
already had a couple of good shots.
Night.
Well,